piloting a mobile suit or even a Gundam is a dream that I'm sure many of us have. But sometimes you should be really careful with what you wish for. Especially if you don't specify in your wish how you want to pilot your machine. Because unfortunately, over the years, it hasn't been rare for pilots to either be absorbed by their mobile suits or to somehow be embedded into them. And you know what also sucks? Being stuck in a country where you can't access a lot of cool things on the internet. So today's video is brought to you by NordVPN, the fastest, most secure VPN out there. Use the link down below or the code kkrt to upgrade your browsing and support the channel. And the first pilots to have been spirited away by their mobile suits might catch some of you off guard. Amuro Ray and Char Aznable. Basically, at the end of Char's counterattack, when Char decided to drop access onto Earth, Amuro used everything that he had at his disposal to push it away. And included in his arsenal was the mysterious psycho frame embedded in his new Gundam. Thanks to this, he was able to successfully push Axis back and save the planet. But in the process, he overloaded the psycho frame, and it is believed that this somehow absorbed both him and Char, who was also there because, I don't know, Amuro took his cockpit as a trophy. For Amuro, this was it. He got turned into fairy dust by the psycho frame, and even though he was apparently officially listed as missing in action, for all intents and purposes, he was dead. Char, on the other hand, somehow managed to imprint his memories onto the psycho frame of the Sazabi before he too became a Force Ghost. And thanks to this, Neo Zeon engineers and scientists were able to extract them and then implant him into a cyber new type who had been genetically modified to be identical to Char, resulting in an almost perfect copy, both physically and mentally. He was such a perfect copy, in fact, that he would be nicknamed the second coming of Char.
The lead machine is approaching it. 3 times the speed of the others.
This should be interesting. Let's test the performance of your brand new Gundam.
And this wasn't the only case of psycho frames having an undesirable effect on the pilot, with a more famous example being Rita Bernal and the Unicorn Gundam Unit 3, the Phenex. She was the unit's test pilot, and unfortunately for her, the Phenex's psycho frame would go out of control during one of the test flights, causing her soul to be absorbed by the Gundam. But unlike Amuro, who was still able to move on, Rita's soul was stuck inside of the Phenex. And also unlike Amuro, and most characters on this list for that matter, her situation doesn't really get resolved. In the end, she's still stuck in the Phenex. But at the very least, we can say that she probably wasn't put in the Unicorn deliberately, something that wasn't the case at all for the next poor soul on this list, Marion Welch and the exam system. Dr. Clust Moses was a Zeon researcher who had a deep fear and hatred of new types. So as a result, he dedicated his life to creating a system that would allow for old types to perform at similar levels as new types in combat. But ironically enough, for his dreams to come to fruition, he needed the help of a new type girl called Marion Welch. The exam system would only become operational after her new type soul had been absorbed by the system and her body fell into a coma. Meaning that whenever the system was activated, the old type pilot would gain new type powers thanks to Marion's trapped soul. But due to the nature of this system, it would also prove to be very unstable and could even drive the machine to go berserk. And what also didn't help was that Marion would try to reach out to the pilot and beg them to help her set her soul free. This would drive many pilots insane, but Yu Kojima would heed her call and made it his mission to destroy the exam-equipped mobile suits and set her free. What exactly setting her free means, though, varies from adaptation to adaptation. In the original game and most of its retellings, she does wake up from her coma, but in the manga, she unfortunately passes away. And if you want to have the full story of the exam system, you can also check out my video on it, which I'll have linked on screen and down below. Next up then, having your soul sucked out of you isn't the only way to get trapped inside of a Gundam. Enter the appropriately named Devil Gundam, also known as the Dark Gundam in the English dub. While this twisted Gundam was capable of fully autonomous operation, it still needed a pilot to serve as an energy source. And we're using the term pilot very loosely here. The Devil Gundam would ensnare this humanoid AA battery with organic wires and slowly drew out their life force. And on top of that, according to Wong Yun-Fats's research, women made for the best batteries. But at the very least, if the quote-unquote pilot could be pulled out of there fast enough, they could still be saved. And talking about saving, while our next entry didn't get absorbed by his mobile suit per se, he was still incorporated into it. Ein Dalton was a loyal soldier of Gallarhorn who was involved in the fight against Tekadon, a fight that would lead to his untimely demise. Or at least it would have had it not been for Galileo Boduin, his superior. Ein had acted as a living shield to save his life, but because of this, he sustained extremely severe injuries to the point that only his torso could be saved, and even then, his chances were slim at best. So Galileo did the only thing he could to save Ein. He would break Gallarhorn's taboo of body modification, had Ein outfitted with the Alaya Vijnana system, and then had his body built into a mobile suit, the Graze Ein. This machine would show incredible performance thanks to the combination of just being a powerful mobile suit by itself and having an advanced version of the Alaya Vijnana system that allowed Ein to control the machine as if it was his own body through thought alone. But it wasn't enough. The combination of Mika and the Barbs was even more formidable, and Ein would be defeated again. Still, this wasn't where the story ended for Ein. The remains of the Graze Ein were salvaged, and whatever remained of Ein's brain would be used to develop the Alaya Vijnana Type E. The regular Alaya Vijnana system had limiters that would prevent the user from accessing a mobile suit's full power, because this could cause irreversible damage to the pilot's brain and also their motor functions. But in the Type E, these limiters were no longer needed because Ein's brain acted as some kind of buffer or coprocessor that would take the brunt of the Alaya Vijnana's feedback, and therefore allowing the pilot to get all of the benefits of the system without any of the drawbacks. For Ein's sake though, I do hope that his brain didn't have any consciousness left. Partially because of the aforementioned feedback thing, and partially because at the end of the series, The Vidar got upgraded into the Chimaris Vidar, did what it had to do, and then just gets placed into storage. A very different fate then can be found in the latest and greatest Gundam series, Witch from Mercury. So if you want to avoid any spoilers, I suggest you stop this video and go watch the series. So, for everyone still here, in Witch from Mercury, what makes a Gundam is the use of the Gund arm system, which is functionally kinda similar to the Alaya Vijnana system that we just went over, but without the need for surgery. Originally, the Gund format was designed as a medical tool to help people live in space, but as with so many things, it would instead be adopted for military use. It was now renamed the Gund Arm and incorporated into mobile suits that became known as Gundams. These machines would have performances that vastly exceeded regular mobile suits, but before long, these Gundams would start claiming pilots as lives. Somehow, they were being infected by these so-called data storms that the system generated, and that manifested itself as glowing patterns on the skin. And one of these people was Eri Samaya, the daughter of Nadim and Elnora Samaya, the development manager and test pilot of the Gundam Lafrith respectively. Due to circumstances, Eri would become the pilot of the Lafrith, but unlike many others, Eri proved to be much more compatible with the Gund arm system. So instead of dying from the Gundam's curse, her body would instead grow steadily weaker due to the harsh living conditions of outer space. And before long, Elnora only had one option left to save Eri. Use those same data storms that had taken so many lives to transfer Eri's consciousness into the Gundam, now known as the Gundam Aerial. Or, as some people jokingly refer to it, the Aerial. And of all of the entries on this list, this is definitely the one where we can crack some jokes. Because even though the Gundam got very badly damaged, and by the end even completely disintegrated, Eri's soul somehow ended up in a keychain.
いいの？何が？素直じゃないね。うるさい。50度のアドバイスは尊重してほしいな。母親そっくりだわ、あんた。
Something that nobody saw coming, not in real life, and not in universe.
こんな田舎のどこがいいのかよくわかんないな。
あんたの存在の方がもっとわかんないんだけど。
僕だってわかんないよ。
And this is where we are ending this relatively heavy list for now. Because as I've just shown you, people being somehow integrated into mobile suits is something that Gundam has been doing for a long time and is still actively doing. So yeah, again, be careful what you wish for. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.